This is how I went from being a messy, chaotic mom of 2, constantly feeling behind, to becoming a mom of 3 with a tidy and calm home. It should be the other way around, shouldn't it? In this video, I'm going to share how changing my mindset and changing the way I thought about my home and cleaning changed my home completely. Because I used to think that the reason I couldn't keep my home clean was because I was lazy and not very good at keeping a tidy home. Or maybe it was something wrong with my house. I knew deep down that none of this was true, but when I looked around at the chaos, I knew that something wasn't working. I would actually dream of waking up to a calm and tidy house instead of the chaos. But deep down, I had started to believe I would never become this person and that I would never have this dream house. And that dream just wasn't realistic for me. I am now going to let you know everything it took for me to make that change. I want to share the mindset shifts that helped me stop feeling constantly behind in my home and completely overwhelmed, especially as a busy mom. If this is something that feels interesting to you, if you are trying to create a calmer home and calmer life too, subscribe to this channel because this is exactly what we're doing here. And do stay until the end because I'm going to share a really good bonus tip that completely changed the way I keep my home feeling calm without spending my entire life cleaning. I think a lot of women tend to go around feeling shame about their homes, especially moms. Is it realistic for busy moms to keep a clean and tidy house all the time? Definitely not. But still, I think for a lot of moms, those negative thoughts still creep back in and become almost automatic after a while. I am so behind compared to others. I should clean more. How do other people do this? My house is always messy. I'm just not organized. And when you think those thoughts over and over again, you just start believing this is the person you are. The messy person, the tired and lazy person, the always overwhelmed person, the unorganized person. And when that's who you believe you are, it becomes very hard to change that. It feels like you're stuck. It feels like this is just who I am. And it starts to feel impossible to change anything. And maybe you are one of those people who go around feeling constant shame, or that you're a failure because you cannot keep up with your house. And this often creates overwhelm that drains your energy. And it becomes a cycle. You feel overwhelmed and don't know where to start. Then the mess grows, and then you panic clean when someone comes over. Then you get exhausted, and then everything slowly builds up again, and you feel like you're starting from scratch. And the cycle repeats. I know this because I lived it for years. I felt I was failing. Especially when my kids were young and my house had just accumulated too much stuff. And it wasn't just the clutter, it was the mental weight of it. Walking past things all day long, managing things, organizing things, moving things around, feeling exhausted and behind all the time. And I think many people blame themselves for being overwhelmed, when actually they're trying to manage an overwhelming amount of stuff. Decisions, unfinished projects, and obligations. Of course that feels overwhelming. Then one day I started asking myself a completely different question. Instead of how do I become more productive? Or how do I force myself to clean more? I started asking myself, what would a calm and tidy person naturally do? And I don't mean a perfect person, not someone on Instagram with a spotless white kitchen and no kids. I just mean a calm, grounded, emotionally healthy, happy person? What kind of life would that person create for themselves? And honestly, that question changed everything for me. Because I realized that that version of me that I wanted to create probably wouldn't create a home and a life that constantly exhausted her. She probably wouldn't spend every weekend trying to organize overflowing closets. She probably wouldn't keep piles of someday items that constantly drained her walking past them every day. She probably wouldn't own supplies for fantasy hobbies that she didn't even have time for. She probably wouldn't fill every cabinet just because she had the space for it. She would protect her peace and make life easier for herself. So that's what I had to do. And little by little, I started simplifying things. One really important mindset shift that changed so much for me was this. Instead of saying, I'm a messy person, I started saying, I'm a clean person who just right now lives in a messy house. And I know that this might sound small, but it changed everything for me. Because suddenly I didn't feel trapped anymore as this messy person, and I didn't attack myself anymore. And I didn't blame myself anymore. Instead, I was helping myself. And there's a big energy shift in those two things. A clean, calm person doesn't wake up every day hating themselves into action. They simply create calm habits and systems for them who creates peace around them. And no, that doesn't mean that their homes are perfect. Mine definitely isn't, and especially with 3 kids. But the homes of these people supports their lives instead of draining them. So I started thinking this. What would this new version of me naturally do? She would probably reset her kitchen every night before bed because it feels great waking up to a clean and tidy kitchen. She would probably keep her kitchen counters fairly minimal because visual clutter creates stress for her nervous system. She would probably donate things she doesn't use instead of constantly reorganizing them, trying to find a functional system with too much stuff. She would probably simplify laundry, simplify cleaning, simplify everyday routines. Not because she's perfect, but because she values peace. One of the biggest shifts for me was realizing I was owning so much stuff for a version of me that I wasn't anymore. The fantasy self, my past self, my someday self, the person who had a lot of time doing a lot of different hobbies, a lot of projects, the person who was going to become completely organized if she just had the right containers, the person who needed backup stuff for every possible scenario you might do, to might happen. But all of these things just made my real life harder and harder to manage. And I just had to ask myself, what kind of life do I really want right now? I really thought about my answers, and I realized they were quite simple. I wanted a calm home. I wanted to have energy. I wanted peace. I wanted to spend time and be present with my children. I wanted mornings to feel easier. I wanted my home to feel relaxing to come home to after a busy day. And suddenly it became so much easier to start to let stuff go. A few at first, then a few more. And I wasn't just holding on to random clutter anymore because I knew I was creating a new and calmer life. I actually started this mindset shift a little while before I had my 3rd child. Because there was no doubt, I knew my home was draining me. I could feel it every day. the visual noise and the clutter in addition to the mental load. And then when I became a single mom, everything became even clearer. Because when you're alone with 3 kids, it makes your energy matter so much more. I didn't want to spend all my free time managing stuff and organizing stuff. I wanted energy to be there for my kids. I wanted my home to feel peaceful to come home to after a busy day. I wanted it to feel calm to walk into the living room after putting the kids to bed. I really wanted my house to be a home to support us instead of overstimulating us. And honestly, that became more important to me than keeping stuff just in case. That's when I really started changing things. I decluttered so much from our home. Not because I wanted to be a perfect minimalist or something, but because for right now I really needed space to breathe. Less visual noise, less stress, less to maintain, just more calm. And over time, it felt like life just became easier to manage. Not perfect, just lighter. And something interesting starts happen when you start seeing things differently. Your habits begin naturally changing too. When you naturally start thinking, how do I make my life easier for myself? Instead of creating complicated systems, you just simplify. Maybe you keep fewer dishes because it makes them easier to take out when you need them and put back clean dishes. Maybe it means keeping fewer clothes because it makes it so much easier for you and the kid to find what you actually love wearing. Maybe it means keeping fewer decorations and keeping those you actually love looking at. Fewer things to manage. You create small reset systems that you have energy to do every now and then instead of marathon cleaning days. You put baskets where clutter naturally builds up, and you stop expecting yourself to maintain unrealistic standards through hard seasons and hard days. You create a home for your real life, not your fantasy life. And honestly, that's when it started becoming sustainable for me. Not through pressure, but through alignment. Okay, so here is the bonus tip. I promised earlier that honestly changed everything for me. Instead of trying to clean your entire house, start creating calm zones. Choose a few places that affect you emotionally the most. Maybe you have always dreamt about clean kitchen counters that are clean and ready to go whenever your family is hungry. Maybe your dream is putting your mug of freshly brewed coffee on a clean and tidy coffee table in the morning. Or maybe coming home to a calm and welcoming entryway after a long and busy day of work or driving kids around or running errands. Or just a calm and tidy bedside table with your favorite book ready for whenever you have a few minutes to yourself. Choose a few spaces that are most important to you and keep focusing on these spaces. Really focus on keeping them calm and say to yourself, I really appreciate how calm this space feels. This space is calm. And your brain is going to start noticing that you are doing something differently. And you will eventually look at your home differently. Because when a few key areas feel peaceful, your entire home starts feeling lighter emotionally. And that creates momentum. And honestly, I think that this is why people stay overwhelmed, because they try to fix everything, their entire house at once. And that is not realistic when you are already overwhelmed and have little energy. Calm is usually built through small repeated resets. not perfection or doing everything just one time. So if you have been feeling overwhelmed by your home lately, I just want you to know this. It's not too late to become a different, new, better version of yourself. Not through shame, not through punishment, not through thinking I am not good enough, not through trying harder all the time, but through small intentional shifts over time. Through putting less pressure on yourself, having less to manage, more peace, more clarity, more calm. You do not have to become a perfect person to have a calm home. And if you want help getting started, I will leave the link for my free 15-minute reset guide below, where I share exactly where to start resetting your home and making it calm. And I'll also leave a link to my full ebook that walks you through how to change your home step by step, with motivational pictures, quotes, and workbook pages that gets momentum going for you to change your home to that peaceful, functional home you always wanted. And if calm, realistic home content speaks to you, subscribe to this channel, because that's exactly what we are building here together. See you in the next one.